Cheese.
All right. Well, I was thinking that I would introduce Michael to everybody. Some of you may already have. Sean, you were at the workshop earlier today, yeah?
I was a lot of places.
I know you were. You're that kind of guy. But for those of you who weren't, Michael Odom is the author of the chapbook Strutting, Attracting, Snapping, and the translator of the upcoming English edition of Catalan poet Luis Rodas Nadir. His poetry has been published in the following literary journals: Clean Well Lighted Place, The Henniker Review, In Posse, Pucker Up, Watershed, and others, as well as 2 anthologies, Between the Leaves and Ritual Sex. Between 1989 until recently, he was a bookseller, manager, and buyer for both independent and chain bookstores. If you stopped for poetry at the Tower Books in Chico, California, or Manhattan, New York in the early 90s, you browsed the titles Michael Odom selected to have on sale in that store. The same is true in the final 7 years of the Clean Well Lighted Place for Books in San Francisco, which went out of business before the unrelated journal of similar title began. And Windows on the World in the Sierra Foothills. As a single father with bookstores closing all around, Michael Odom pursued and recently received his MFA in poetry from New England College. And so we are very happy to have him read to us after having given 2 fabulous workshops with creative writing students earlier in the week. So here's Michael.
Thank you. I see some faces in these workshops. My history is a little strange for a poet in that I went to the bookstore side of the world as opposed to straight through the graduate school to the MFA teaching poetry side. So an awful lot of my experience and the influences on me involved having to actually talk people into buying the books, which changes an awful lot, actually, I found. But I'll try not to drag this out. I tend to not explain a lot before I read. I'm probably going to just write, and when I get to the translations especially, just kind of grasp along at what you can, because the person I translate, Rhoda, loves to grab words from everywhere. Right? So I may apologize afterwards, but I won't explain. Okay. The monkeys at the zoo could teach a man what to keep and what to toss at crowds. It can't be hard to entertain. She turned invisible, except for everything I saw. Areola, the radii of a swirl of my tongue. I tapped on walls with spoons, a new code because I never learned the old. Tink, tink. I poked my sound into molecular pudding between us. Talk, talk, talk. I woke the worms of trapped air to squirm through to her ear, while on the prison cup that is her brain pan, she heard and said, "Now you're just annoying." I hide my sonnets in hoop skirts and whalebone, but my face is holding a thickly tucked wallet of candid pictures, nudes of my glamorous lines, and it sells them to strangers on the World Wide Web. You terrorize me with your wordy excretions, a body that sweeps the floors of my temples, a golem of one perverted rabbi. Opposing amaryllis, opposing iris, you, Amelia, in a prospect of flowers, are underlined by violets, dots of crocus, italicized by blue impatience, rashing, a beautiful sickness on your crossed calves, your tight thighs, while on the far side of your eye is desert. She offers blood orange balsamic on arugula, tears leaves off gerontian pornographically, and reads hard with rasps, not Eliot. It's Pound declaiming squats, sounding like squats in a thin Jewish crack. She moves us mannishly and serves onions, with her white dress on waves under crusting, like silent seas contained in parachutes. She, my hag, will feed me her hard bean soup if I trim her toenails, store her clippings for art, and coolly blow on her buttons. She was the shawl, the elegant nape, and then the fury. Aural as wet paint, sear as the sun makes an eye-tearing screech. I, pigeon oil, molting sheen, talon streaks, could not think when she would steam raw tripe clean and satirically scorch the menudo. I'd fidget with consonants, glare a new vowel to no obverse but her face, never right, because proof was a function of the elegant nape and her shoulders squared beneath the shawl. And with an awl of smoke she could punch through the roof of a nostril, then smother responses by dropping her hair and, quick turning, leaving. Seeing what I'd say when I couldn't say love, I'd say, odd smell. As I mansplained my mansplanation, she curdled. Not that I was ever wrong, not that I was less, to her, attentive, or open to rebuttal, not that she believed me ignorant, unwilling, or that she doubted my candor as I rummaged in my skull, like Santa in his nearing morning sack, or that she did not know her female want of self-interrogation, self-response, and self-gloss kept her cryptic and dim. It was more that she could not be wrong, and I found my effort to be right tired. When the facts are lies, the great detective creates the truth, imagines nonfiction, generates biographies, and all I know are lies. Or so I mansplained, and mansplained that mansplain is itself a sexist term. She took until I referenced Wittgenstein to strip herself down, redress, slink, strap on new heels, and leave all night, with nothing more to say but, you Manichaeans miss the role of disquotational operators like truth and hegemonic ploys. Then something about programmed baby grand pianos I still don't get. I believe she fucked her boss that night. And that's the first line you hear. It gets better. Seconds per planet to bring the universe in under a week, then one entire night to Eve. The shoulders and limbs were a shrug. He had long since worked out mountains, their slopes, their paths and snowdrifts. Then hair through midnight and eyes until dawn. With Adam awaking, God took from his chest the miraculous Trinity, the womb and two breasts. That morning, Adam disappeared. Then Satan ducked behind a cloud and wasn't back that day. He bowed to her, yes, but like serpents bow, not so different from his height. And in her lap, she held a breeding ball of tiny snakes, writhing as with coffee, and one eye twitched and both feet tapped. Soon, paradise teemed with angel-human mutants. God was done. The best anyone could do was lock her away like a crystal statue protected from scratches or scratching, like cloth that drapes her head to toe. God sees they are a jigsaw. He snaps the ball of her shoulder into Adam's pit, and the curve of her hip into his lap. He settles a knee into the chin of her thighs, and a calf slips ingeniously between his shins. Her head he nests like a sea in the lagoon of his throat. His sternum cups her spine. Then there's always the one, stubbornly extra hand. the sunburst bat of a window frame. A hungry native grollicks a fawn and tosses a meat penny for the ravens. God sinks into his overstuffed throne and wipes his face as if news were sweat. That's when death places an avuncular hand on love's shoulder. Here, he says, allow me to help you with that. Now watch, God. This is how we tie our shoe. The rabbit goes round. You see the paper-like wrapper of fat beneath her cellophane-similar skin, and the effect is intellectual summary, an appreciation sated. But I will tell you, and only you, when I see the line and plane, the perspective, the tone, I can't tell you this. There is nothing about her except all that can be handed in a file after autopsy, or a profile if she had murdered me on TV. You see, she is delicate, bones so thin you'd think she'd fly. But have you seen her devastate? I know what you see. I know you know what happens in Galapagos, when the great frigate poses and dances, puffed up red and fails, is stuck with his chest. Or when a chimpanzee gathers in a leaf nest, the only alpha of beauty for an ape. You're going to get back and think about it. Burrow or dry? That's my actual title. Inches of gypsum, emptiness, and wood for my ear. My dying neighbors lower to their cushions. They have fingers like little throats, cinched by the same golden belt. They say what and where, and offer each other tea, and watch killers get caught in black and white. Their long ears dwarf the beads that roll in from strands the film wears and they break. Their boredom looks like melted candles. When they sleep, they're like mudslides. On the other side, the same small inches of wall and space, and the taut-faced girl lives quietly. I hear the flickers glow blue on her wall. Our same noir, our same shadows, our same mist and easy rainfall. Our shared grass stepped flat and choked in virgin mud. The hermaphrodite worms and snails must fuck with joy for being safe on her stoop. Her chair reclines out of sight, but I know she breathes from her pouty mouth. She has a bad, bad cold, and sips at hot lemon and honey, while a Maine Coon licks himself on her sill. Their scrape-eaten rhythm in ruts, fork tines on tin, rat's feet, and thoughts of ceiling sealants, caulks, or drummers' brushes, soft but hardening jazz on my shed roof, my Itsy. My carapace of creeping rust overhead hides our shared galaxy of hurtling rocks, and your last gauzy summer dress makes my saddest curtain a happy closure. You are as much as the moon tonight and as close, and I'd ask you how eternity is heaven if our 6,000 mornings are past. Grab seats. Beneath his blackened tan, blanched with privilege and beard, and dangling between his legs, privilege, is a thought to ride a bus, dollarless. In the driver's mirror, the quailing stench on fellow riders' faces tells, my type, he's wrong. And the dark oppressed haven't time sneaks in the back at slow cop arguments. They've jobs and hope for Starbucks. All exits flood to the bus behind the bus we're all. If the owners earn up heaven, they will evict us more, for whom the leather wings of devils won't suffice. Let poets, transients, atheists, self-reliably bury us, undead and always more, immortal and not fit to ogle the puffy plastic bits we lust for badly on the rich. Private school. Lined up hobbled futures, boys with their standardized haircuts, study how to want, now that we standardize tests. Teens without number 2 pencils are anxious. Scantrons wait, standardized unfilled, blanks at the table. Outside, lines standardized, boy, boys, girl, girls, to separate dress, arm lengths, standardized quiet. The prettiest wears a cheerleader B for breasts, non-standard costume. Tints with the life that outlives their minds, with a standard question and their answers. Girls wilt and boys standardized dumb. Trying to teach their new hairy and muscular youths to standardize, but they are slippery on crutches of wild guesses. They're standing hard. Circles reel in the wind, spindling air like fear, like panicked blind canes and eyes. Wear ash, bite skin that's bone, drag sinew from your teeth, heads walk nude on sticks in a row, no grief. Your cheeks, freshly shelled eggs, don't wash. For now, just ring the bells. As soon as Father transforms the wafer into God, jangle a half a minute. The heads in the pews turn down, you'll see, not up. Think sunflowers with faces cramped that moment with fat seeds. That means they listened. That is your whole job. The tinkering effect you have on thought. Then snuff out the wigs as they leave. You cried in the lake when thrown in to swim, then loved the water and forgot you can't breathe. Once we don't suffer, we forget we could. Your role here is reminder. It's small to live. A squirrel could do it, any bug. And typical, the dirt and even shit can fuel a team. A squirrel could do it dead. And on the bed she left, the silhouette of piss is doused with bleach, because what grows would still be corpse, but flagrant and proud. Freakish as the multitudes of men on this lone earth, flakes of winter skin glide down like gulls in the cold, borne down to the planet, a fresh and finishing first step, one all over and all around, all comforting dead flock, where the snow would be pure, virginal but for the blood, but then blood could be virginal too. A bomb and a Sabbath, clearing the corpses, clicked out of my mind. 1, 2, 3. Here where the blades are crushed beneath me, terrorists freeze too. And I can't fear death. Not when she's dead every day, and I sleep every night. And each star is asleep and making grind. And she and they were, and perfect to have been. She had a mind as vast as Rome, mostly ruins, but traffic and Moroccan heat. And Ireland, Guinness, and Jameson were her arms. She'd scream into her pillow until her back was rubber, then want sex, not me. She wheezed under sheets through Mondays and croaked for sweets with a clotted throat, a camper's tent left to fall over years. Her voice would pop like crippled knees, so I'd have to think back to hear if she spoke. And when she tried to stand, her blood stayed down, and I would have to lift her like a rucksack filled with stone ghost, like nothing less than dope. Storing your ties, your long jackets, your shined shoes, has murdered the better part of my closet and all our authenticity. Dad, when in life would you ever have sanctioned parading in these flat uniforms, not of our class, not our nation or reason? Yours is the black of my closet, and I am your blue-collar, white, broom-pushing son, donning for death your funereal suit. Skeletons, veterans, long since discharged or discharging their duties. Volleys at clouds, salutes, slowly unflatting the box. Acts of old soldiers remembering soldiers no one's forgotten. Had they not shocked my ears, breached the walls built against you, I would have held. I'm your child. Why do they shoot in the sky? All the primary colors, all the books of plush bears, all the songs with light rhymes she would salve on my ears, all the velveteen fables of lions and lambs, all the babes in seraphim arms, who's childish now? I am tall by small standards, and dirt does not know that it lives as a man. But I know what is dirt, and what women there were of this ground. I was over her head on the slide, and it burned, so I never slid down. She reached up to my foot. While my sisters rode horses on beaches near Cadiz, I lay holding my stomach, malingering, watching the young maid as she scrubbed the blood ring from the top. No boy with my 14-hair mustache, months from Spain, where I'd felt the new distance of every earthly body and my own. Under the tutelage of Orion's arm, lording above in the ocean's leprous cousin. The desert infected my every cell with its watertight walls, and now I can't love or be loved except in floods. Mother was dragged from the road pier by a rope. Movie. Are you the witch who makes the windmills giants? Are you the royal who tours to soothe this crisis? Your digital eye never flickers. I miss burnt seams, the clacks, the snow melt cold of clarity. Are you a match touch to this phantom limb? Are you the actuary for this panhandler? Sum up my hat, I need to leverage trees. If this were a bed, I could pass for Don Quixote. Are you a wall for this burning zeppelin? In matinees, your creams take on the pallor of corpse flesh, and I have to watch the screen. Beyond the panes, dendrite frost, an earth full of bones, and groaning sprites is chattering ribs on elbows. Sleep carefully with your twisting wet knot of sheets. The screams the screams across copses are bird song in dreams. From terror to mare, they are movies you might not survive. But if corpses reach out from your closet, chalk phalanges tap on your shoulder, don't turn, it is you for certain they want. If ghosts gift you murders, trust they were mindful. For you, it is your mind, it is your murder. Write out the bloodshed each morning. Sneak reads, do what you can, until your childish stopped heart rebeats. Oh, the rabbits are gnawing at the stalks, rats haunt the crawl spaces, roaches swarm in cupboards. He was bleaching on Maui when his cell buzzed. Now death snowed under, island shirt on a peg, and not happy. He's lost his room deposit. Death starts, cracking his knuckles, plotting inroads with a finger bone stroking pleasure lines on his mouse, plotting the asphalt bands on Earth's face, crossing millions of threads on wet dough, letting Earth dry, letting the corners care for themselves. That's it. That's his idea. He checks his pockets. Not one adequate plague. Except these millions of cars driving and spreading like flu. He thinks, by odds, dozens of trunks will have hands stilled by wire hangers and sweat tightly twisted. On the palm of his hand where he holds us, rocket ships burst up and tickle like soda bubbles, so he thinks, these are strange new volcanoes. He doesn't like a rock wetting his hand. Dry is his way. Earth almost squishes. He can't interpret sloshes. Death eyeballs this membrane on Earth and thinks some mystical breath has caused this oily sweat on a mineral of his collection. So he looks for a rag, as yet none. For the first time, he is stained, a sickly bright, and that, he can tell, is this world's wet nature, to meld new colors with his chalk white fingers. So he shakes us within and rolls us from the palm of his hand where he'd held us. Hammock. It's a womb with a stone. My rope cocoon sways. Pulling at the sides, I seam my chest closed. My rope cocoon sways, sagging over irises. To seam my chest closed, my hands sew themselves. Sagging over irises, God's arm span of cold. My hands sew themselves. I'm swaddled like a moth. God's arm span of cold, pulling at the sides. I am swaddled like a moth, or like a woman with a stone. That's going to conclude the me, solely me part of the evening. But before I let you go, I want to read some of my translations. For the past 2 years, I've been translating afraid I may have been too fast for you. The last 2 years I've been translating a book from Catalan. It's pretty much finished and we're shopping it around now, by Luis Roda. The book's called Nadir. Again, I thought at first I'd explain all the words, but that would probably take another half hour. So I'm going to let you just get the tone, the mode, get what you can of these poems. The fact is, the way he works is pulling out these words that no one on earth knows. You don't have to feel that someone's smarter than you, because no one's going to know these words off the top of their head. But in the first read, you always get something. You get the emotion. You get what's happening. And then you look up the words and you get more. It's like the dictionary is a part of his strategy, which is the only poet I've ever met who does that. And at the finish of the procession of this life, not a heart chilled nor by death would I be found, capped with corrosion, but a heart robbed by esteem for having loved you pristine, a star come down for oriflamme, and core knotted entirely in all that kept us separate. To receive from this mean meal the cornucopia, quondam, egg still unharmed, reflection of the seas, violet as one, epigenesis of this photocopy. And on this erg I see no moon to orient me with the sun gone. There one dashed line alone, formed in the mode of dunes. And always coming the one and then one, I have to push on with eyes closed, with an endless expectation, and thus to the start return, to where I make my wrong decision, or to a finish that will waver until my skin molts, or I drop my bones at the nadir, zenith, last hour. Cock-a-doodle-doo, I celebrated your youth resplendent as a radiant morning, quadlibet. And like a Quixote, errant since you, and in sorting the giant from the chaff, I crashed into a blade of the cross of fate, like an enormous garden La Mancha that God prefers for me. Because from this loss I rise victorious. Because love transformed to sorrow does no harm. Because with this one-time quittance I desire no more wrongs. Because I clashed with fortune, that it raises and lowers, and it never rolls back, and it always rolls forward. Your haunches gave not much uplift to my marrow. That was my spirit vaulting heights that you hunted like a sparrow. To warm my eggs in your nest would hatch me out a runt. That, and that I saw more and thought best, my eye stays sharp and never blunt. Let some others dance the pavane about your anus, or if you prefer it, rhyme about your nereus. Funicular. This one has the definition in the poem, so it's okay. Funicular, noun, niche left in the body of a wall in which to place a statue, an altar, etc. I am a thoroughfare, I come and go, to no effect. Elemental, I've got this. We're ignorant of Petrarch, ignorant of so much, where we've been, where we're going, who we are at heart, what we want. In any case, I was your funicular. Even so, it might have been the reverse. And to be statuary, lifeless, is not funny at all. But how much worse to be the whole with a plan. Because the sincerity of the hyaline soul, no one will live in that space. But if, by chance, someday you walk past, where a crowd observes a statue inert, try using your coins, use your tears. Perhaps she is only posed, and with a touch, she'll move.